like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do? You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
What up, film fans? Happy Tuesday, or if you're watching us on Emiswa Productions, happy Sunday. Welcome to episode 391. Welcome to the Godfather Part 3. You're listening to a whole new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I am your host, Juan, and I'm joined by the cast, the crew, the family, the fellas. Zach?
Hey, 391. Guys, we're almost to our 400th episode.
That's insane. 400 episodes, 7 years in the making. It happens this year. It happens in just a few short weeks. Welcome to another new episode. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Did something that I hadn't done in quite some time. You invited me to church, so I was like, sure, we'll take a swing at it, and I had a good time with it. So, we'll see.
Nice. It's always.
How are you? How are you? What's going on in the world of Johnny?
Man, in the world of this crazy episode we call life, it has been. It's kind of like an elevator, man. It has its ups and downs, But one of the best things that there is to do is to come and hang out and talk movies with you fine people, wherever you listen or watch us at. Went out of town this past weekend. Hung out with some family and got some good food. But Zach, the one complaint I had, why does it feel like it's August already? Yesterday was just absolutely insane.
I don't know, man, because me and my mom were talking about that just earlier today. Like, we were just talking about how it was February. In February, I was like, man, March is going to go by slow. And then a week from Wednesday is April 1st. So you tell me, were you just in some weird time loop or something?
It's been weird, some kind of time loop. We had like 2 days of spring. We went from winter. Now we're just directly in summer, I guess. But last week we had a very fun conversation, and we dived deep into Schindler's List. There's not too much to say about that episode. I want you guys to go back and listen to it. So wherever you listen to podcasts at, go back, hang out, and listen to it. iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can also go to www.prescribedfilms.com, hashtag the PFPN, and listen to us on that website, along with a bunch of other great podcasts and hosts. Or if you're watching us live on Facebook or Emiswa Productions YouTube channel, you can hang out and watch us every single week. Or just give us a download. The best thing to do for us, if you want us to survive and live on and not go extinct like the dinosaurs, like, share, and subscribe whatever you listen to us on, whether it's Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music. Facebook is huge for us and our algorithm. So like, subscribe, share our content. It just takes a few seconds. And guess what? Supporting us, you can do that absolutely free. So that's the biggest help you can do.
If we go extinct, maybe they could get like some DNA of us and they can make clones of us and the show can keep going.
If you want to support us with, not it being for free, you can support us and help us financially too. Look at Zach. He's got an old NBA hat on with no headphones. We need some support. These shelves behind me, they're falling, they're cracking. This is not a fake background. This is a real backgrounds, real movies, real shelves. You can also help us and support our sponsors, which we will talk about in a few short minutes. But if you want to go back and listen to last week's episode, you can click on any of the links that are on the social media pages. Facebook.com/the Cinnamon Movie Podcast. Instagram is all one word, Cinnamon Movie Podcast. The X is Cinnamon405. Or you can send us a good old fashioned email at cinemen921 at gmail.com. So go back and listen to last week's episode. Zach, before we dive into things, do you have anything you want to recommend? I heard that you went and seen some movies this week.
Yeah, so I went and saw two films actually. Finally got to see The Bride, the new Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jesse Buckley joint. Overall, it's fine. I think Jesse Buckley was definitely the best part of the movie. Christian Bale is an interesting Frankenstein. It just didn't go. It went in a very different direction. So I'm kind of curious to once you finally get to see it, what you think about it. But the big thing was Project Hail Mary came out this weekend. Literally finished the book Thursday night before seeing the movie Saturday afternoon. Loved it. It was everything and more. It is a girthy 2.5 hours, but I think to me, I thought it flew by. So, I mean, I had the advent of reading the book, so I knew exactly what was going to happen. It was cool seeing Lord Miller's adaptation of it. Ryan Gosling was incredible. Rocky is, as cute as you think he's going to be. So, yeah, go check that on the biggest screen as you can, possibly. TV wise, continuing Monarch on Apple TV Plus. We are on the road to The Mandalorian and Grogu, so I'm going to do a Mandalorian rewatch before we go see the new film on Disney Plus. And The Madison, Taylor Sheridan's new show on Paramount Plus with Michelle Pfeiffer and Kurt Russell, has all the feels. I think it's much more a more emotional show than what we expect from Taylor Sheridan. But we've been enjoying it. So, yeah, go check out that stuff and much, much more. What about you?
A lot to keep up with, man. You are everywhere. You're keeping up with TV. You're going to the theater. It's exhausting, and I'm just
people must be wondering how many hours are in my day, honestly.
Yeah. So it's kind of been a small week for me. I rewatched The Godfather Part 3, the Coda edition for today's episode. Little Nicky had a Shout Factory re-release finally on Blu-ray after 25 years. Is that why movies like that? Why did Little Nicky was an interesting and fun rewatch, but it had as much bad comedy and cameos as Happy Gilmore 2, but I enjoyed it so much more than Happy Gilmore 2.
I think that's one that that was one that you grew up watching and you just loved, so it's just kind of near and dear to your heart. While Happy Gilmore 2, you kind of it's not much of a fun stick as it used to be in today's Adam Sandler days.
Step Brothers rewatch. You ever seen?
Why do people love that movie? By the way,
you know what? Okay, I put it in, and I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I didn't think I was going to like the rewatch as much. But the rewatchability, the one-liners are so much fun. It's only an hour and 38 minutes, so unless you watch the extended version, the theatrical version is only an hour and 30 minutes. So I think you're in and you're out. The one-liners, the memes that are created from this movie 17 some odd years ago, which is crazy. It's just a fun time. And I think whether you stream it or you own it, it's one of those comedies that is like there and it has to be recognized. And I think no matter how many times you maybe rewatch it, you'll have fun with it. Bridesmaids turning 15 years this year. I want to rewatch that soon because, it's just something about a good old-fashioned comedy that just doesn't get made much anymore.
So, fun fact, that'd be kind of cool to do an episode. I've never seen Bridesmaids. It's just one that just slipped me and I never got to it.
And then I checked out. I watched Anaconda today.
The new one.
I did. We talked about it. We talked about it earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. I like the idea of it being a reboot inside of a reboot.
Yeah.
You kind of let me go into it open minded and fresh face, which I appreciate for that. Um, but I didn't
And-
know that it was like a spoiler alert. I didn't know that it was a team creating a reboot inside of a movie called Anaconda.
yeah. And I just realized I lied to you I lied in church because
J Lo is in it.
someone showed that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
just for everybody,
So
but it's good in due time, and in for sake of the movie.
there you go.
If I had to recommend anything, I don't know if Step Brothers is streaming on anything, but go check out Step Brothers. I didn't see nearly as much good stuff and new stuff as Zach did. Anaconda just came out recently, so go pick up Anaconda, or like Zach said, it's going to be hitting Netflix real soon. And then you know what? Today's subject matter, man, it's on Paramount Plus. Go check out The Godfather Part 3. I believe you can also watch the Coda edition on Paramount Plus. So
Yep.
go check that. Go check that out, as that's what we're getting ready to get into. I did notice, Zach, this is not on IMDb's top 250, which is okay because we had to talk about it anyway. We did the first two, so why not?
Finish it out.
Yeah, we're talking The Godfather Part 3. IMDb has a 7.5 out of 10 on it. Rotten Tomatoes is 66. The Metascore is 60%. And then Letterboxd is 3.5 out of 5. With a budget of $54 million, this movie grossed a little over $137 million at the box office, with a Christmas Day, December 25th, 1990 release date. Nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 0. It got the Marty Supreme status. Starring Al Pacino, Diane Keaton, Andy Garcia, Talia Shire, um, Joe Mantega, Sofia Coppola, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Follows Michael Corleone, now in his 60s, as he seeks to free his family from crime and a suitable successor to his, and try to find a suitable successor to his empire. Zach, do you remember the first time you watched Godfather Part 3? Or was this the first time watch? And what was it like for you when it was over?
So I have seen the Godfather part 3. I got it when I bought the box set of the original the trilogy when it was like re-released and restored by Coppola. I watched it then, but I like part 3. I don't really get why people have like such a big deal about this film. I mean, I kind of get it, but not like to the extreme that most people do. And then this is the first time I watched the Code edition, The Death of Michael Corleone, on Paramount Plus. And man, I gotta admit, I think we'll get into it, but I think I prefer the theatrical more than the Coda edition.
We'll talk about it. I haven't seen the Coda edition, or I haven't seen the theatrical edition in quite some time. Um, I'm kind of the same way. I don't know why some people have a hard time with the third film, either edition for that matter. Um, you know, whenever it was over, the first time I seen it, I was like, not as good as the first two, but definitely amazing.
Mhm.
For either edition for that matter. Um, but yeah, we can dig into it. This is probably my fourth time watching the third one. I definitely have seen the first two way more than I have this one.
Yeah.
Um, so let's dig into it. If you have not seen it, it is a 35-year-old movie. We're at 15 minutes into the episode. Go check it out on Paramount Plus, either edition. It's The Godfather Part 3 conversation today. I didn't know about this, but Al Pacino held the director hostage and wanted like so much money to do and come back and play Michael. Francis
Mhm.
Ford Coppola was like, dude, if you don't come back, if you can't do it for the money I'm offering you, then I'll just start the movie out with Al Pacino's, or not Al Pacino, but with Michael's funeral. What do you think about that?
I mean, that would have been an interesting concept. I mean, literally start the movie off start the movie off with his death and just kind of where does the family go from there? I think I would prefer that a little bit more than what we got, especially with the Coda edition. Um, that just would have been like a big left turn, but I don't think the movie like I think one of the big things I enjoyed about this movie, even though it's not really the main plot, um, was Michael's guilt and his struggle of putting the hit on Fredo, essentially killing his own brother.
So I think it's more than just the Fredo guilt. I think it's just the guilt from everything, losing his family, losing the relationship with his wife or ex-wife, losing the relationship with Anthony, losing the relationship with Mary. Mary's the only one. You get the start of this movie is the fund for the church, the organization kind of whitewashing the mafia money into like a church like setting, but also trying to right his wrongs, if you will,
Yeah.
and maybe turn over a new leaf. I know that's really what the movie is about, is him getting into a different part of being the head of a different table. So for years, Michael's been like the head of his dad's business and the Godfather and the Don of this not so pleasant business. But this is
Mhm.
the first movie where you can tell he's like trying to go back and right his wrongs. And he's like, okay, maybe I can be the Don somewhere else, whether it's my faith, whether it's what my family wants. And I need to find the successor. I need to just get out of this business and still collect the money from the dirty business, but not get my hands dirty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of this film of like you summarized it up pretty well
Mm.
of I think Michael not only dealing with the death of his killing his own brother, but also if this family is going to survive, we got to get out of this business and try to do a rebirth essentially. But the great, it has one of the great lines in the franchise is just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. But it's not the crime that they're committing is not I wanna say it's not as memorable as something that happens in in part 1 or part 2. I mean, it's literally just, money laundering through the Catholic Church, essentially.
But what's interesting about that certain aspect of it though is it's not as memorable, but you get the relationships from what you wanted to see in films past. You get to see now I'm going to get into casting a little bit later on, but you get to see Michael with the adult version of his daughter, with the adult version of his son. And then let's not to mention kind of how
Mm,
ruthless the sister is in this movie. She is starting to pull a little bit
right.
more strings than maybe she should had the rights to be given. What do you think of the sister in this movie compared to the other two films? And do you think she's just trying to get her fingers dirty so she can always have a place to eat at the table, if you know what I mean? Because I think Talia Sh-
Um,
Talia Tyler Scher got nominated for Best Supporting Actress in the first two films. I believe so. But to me, her role was a little bit bigger in this movie, but I kind of didn't care too much for her character in this movie.
yeah, I think I agree with you. I think she definitely is trying to, have a bigger place at the party since, literally their other 2 siblings are gone, their parents are gone, and so, like, this is, like, the last of that, original, or the last of that original family that's left essentially. Because now we have the new generation, which is Mary and Anthony, Michael's sons, and I had to Wikipedia this. I couldn't figure out Vincent's lineage, right, like, I'm sure they said it, but I just wasn't,
He
like,
was he was
paying
Sonny's kid.
attention. He's the illegitimate Sonny's kid, yes.
Yeah.
And
So
so, I kind of thought Andy Garcia was a little bit more annoying than Talia Shire was, honestly, in my opinion.
So
Because
this,
the whole movie, he's just trying to prove himself as, yes, I'm part of this family. Yes, I can do what you want, Michael. Yes, I can call hits when it's really none of my business. But ultimately, his actions is what leads to the end of the movie, essentially.
so I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't have an issue with the character, but it was in the midst of the popularity of Andy Garcia in the 90s, in the late 80s, and
Mhm.
he was just being casted for any and everything. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, he's got the look. He could be in The Godfather because he's got that look." But I kind of did not. I agree with you. I did not like his character. Again, not because of the character. I just did not feel the need for an Andy Garcia in this movie.
No.
I feel like maybe another actor could have maybe picked up and portrayed. I know a lot of people also give um, Sophia
Sophia
Coppola,
Coppola is definitely the hated bunch out of
which
this movie.
I don't understand. She's supposed to be a 16, 15, 6, between 15 and 17-year-old girl.
Mhm.
She's supposed to be, Michael's, not only Michael's pride and joy, but Michael's, like, she's supposed to be spoiled. And I know
Yeah,
people hate on her so bad in this movie. I think she even got a Razzie for worst actress
she
in this
did.
movie.
Yeah,
And
she,
I I just don't see I don't see the hate.
well, and like the most hysterical thing about it is like, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think she's great, but like, I don't think she's as
Not
bad as people are making out to be.
right. She's not great, but she is definitely not Razzie award winning in this movie by any means necessary. I don't think anybody was. I think
No.
she was actually, and we can go back our first episode when we talked about The Godfather. She's in the first movie as a little baby. The baby
Yeah.
at the end of the movie. It's not supposed to be the same person, but
No.
she's in the movie as an actor. As a little baby actress. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
when I re-looked up some of that stuff for this movie, I'm like, she is not that bad. Some people even calling this movie like, you know, one of the worst endings to a trilogy of all time, and I'm like, whoa, I don't I don't even understand the 66% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I don't even think this is that bad at how some people are portraying it, and it still got nominated for 7 Oscars. That's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
yeah,
people want to bitch and complain about Sofia Coppola, but I mean, she went on. People don't realize this. She went on to win an Oscar for the screenplay for Lost in Translation. So, she's done really well since then. So,
um,
but I'll be the first to admit I was kind of dreading this watch because
same.
it is 2 hours and 40 minutes, but I don't know, man. Like I don't hate this movie. I don't love this movie. It's just kind of like I feel like I totally agree with you. Is this a bad movie? By no means, no. But given the pedigree of the first two films, I can you agree with there's something lacking from this movie?
True, but I think that's just time going against the film. If this movie would have came out in like 1980 or like just a few years after Part 3, I think it would have done its justice. But this
Mhm.
movie came out what, like 15 years later?
I was surprised by that because I truly thought they were back to back to back, but Godfather came out in 1972. Godfather Part 2 came out 2 years after that. This one didn't come out till 1990.
Yeah.
So 16 years later, essentially.
And so let's talk about the two different versions. You said you prefer the theatrical version. I kind of sit well with the Coda edition. I don't mind the theatrical version. I'm not going to sit there and be like, "Oh, it has to be the Coda edition." The theatrical
Yeah.
version is like terrible. That's not the
Yeah.
case for me. Let's kind of go down the rabbit hole and kind of describe to listeners just really the big differences between the two films. Which, if you get 4K triple disc
Deluxe.
deluxe version, you get the Coda edition and the theatrical edition.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and it comes with a bonus disc. So, um, it's like a 5 disc set. But let's explain to the listeners what the two differences are.
So in my opinion, and you have to take this with a grain of salt. I am not. I kind of wanted to rewatch the original theatrical edition before this, but I just didn't have time. But from what I remember from the original theatrical is that it's a very clear cut minute 1 to the last scene. It's a full movie. This one, I call it. It's like vignette shorts where all the little sequences are connected, obviously as one movie. But it's just like you get done with one, it fades out and it leads into something else. It doesn't. It feels very
Choppy.
It feels very Lego-y, if that makes sense. You just put the parts together, and each part assembles the movie.
So you think that's how the Coda edition feels?
Yeah, that's how it felt to me.
So, and I get what you're saying, but Francis Ford Coppola swears up and down that the theatrical,
version.
that the theatrical cut is, the cut that the studio wants, and that one should feel choppy.
And
The
it doesn't feel that way.
The Coda edition, from what he says, and if you watch the Blu-ray, the 4K, you get like an extra 10-minute introduction from the director, and he swears in that introduction, the Coda edition is the definitive that's the version he wants you to see, and it should not feel choppy. But I get what you mean, because when watching the Coda edition, it did feel like, okay, it felt like there was almost, like you said, 2 movies in one.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it.
I honestly don't remember. I don't remember the movie opening up with Michael talking to the Catholic Church. I don't remember that at all. Like, I remember that being in the movie, but I don't remember that being the first thing.
Do you remember, and it's been a while since I guess we both have seen the theatrical cut. Do you remember how the theatrical cut ended?
Yeah, the theatrical cut, which that was my biggest complaint about the Coda. And spoiler alert for a 35-year-old movie. The theatrical cut, we see Michael die. He just slumps over into the chair and hits the ground, and that's the end of the movie. And to me, that's just it's so iconic, given the fact the way the first movie ends with Marlon Brando's character of like, it's this big funeral arrangement. It's this huge deal. Like the Godfather's dead, but Michael, given his choices throughout his life, this is ultimately his the consequences for his actions of he's just going to die a lonely old man and no one around him.
Yeah, I get that. Like, so that's another reason why I kind of wanted to ask your opinion about the Coda edition versus the theatrical, is because I'm like give and take. I like the Coda ending because
the Coda ending, in my opinion,
it's more of a haunting situation for Michael, because he has to sit there in his thoughts and his feelings, and essentially, again, spoiler, Mary dies in a bullet which was meant for him. Mary died, and just like at the beginning of The Godfather Part 1, just like many scenes, it's the innocent who always suffer.
Yeah.
She had nothing to do with the business. She had nothing to do with what he was getting his hands dirty and getting involved with. She gets the bullet, she dies, and I like the ending of the Code edition because you see him, and obviously it's years later after she passes, but you can tell that he's just being haunted by all the stuff that has happened to his family, and it's almost like it took the cake of his daughter dying for him to sit there in that chair, and just the bad memories of him being haunted by that is necessarily, to me, the true story of the death of Michael Corleone. Michael died that day when he let out that animalistic scream and his daughter died. Michael died that same day.
Yeah. And you're left with this like shell of a man who is,
Never the
you know,
same.
we see he's never the same, and he's not nothing what his legacy is built up to be. Like right before the shootout in that conference room, which is a great action sequence. He is he was respected. Everyone knows him. You know, he's just like, oh, you're just like your father. You know, you're carrying on the family business, and he's none of that. But by the time we get to the end of this movie, it's he has none of that left.
And you know, he loses everything. I feel, and this is an
It's a shorter movie.
Yeah,
Weirdly.
this is an interesting concept if you think about it. He lost so much more in less time than his dad did.
Yeah.
It always goes back to his dad. Even though Robert De Niro, Marlon Brando, even though that character is not in this movie, it's a
His
shell.
shadow looms over him.
Yeah, that shadow never leaves.
No.
And it's always one of those that's like the shadow cast was so huge on Michael as a personally as a character that like I think Michael loses way more than his dad ever did.
Yeah.
And I think
he literally loses it. They both, and interestingly enough, if you think about it, they both lose a child. Vito loses Sonny while he's alive, and then Michael loses Mary while he's alive. And so, you know, weirdly enough, just kind of sitting here thinking about it, both lives take a very similar trajectory, because while Vito is ambushed and shot in the streets, Michael technically doesn't get shot, but he like basically loses his brother and his guiding wheel with Robert Duvall's character Tom, and he suffers from diabetic strokes in this movie.
And what I mean by, you know, Michael loses so much more is that it's also one of those where he loses. Let's not forget, Vito never lost his wife. Vito never lost the respect of his children. Vito never lost the respect of his peers. And he never lost the respect or the trust of his sons or brothers.
And take it even a step further, Vito, his reach is not so poisonous that his wife causes herself to have an abortion.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother loss that is not even, you know, you can't even describe.
That's a great conversation. If you guys want to go back, I will find the episode number, but I would go back and check out that conversation we had about the Godfather Part 2, just because of that scene, of that scenario of yeah, I'm getting emotional kind of right now talking about it. It was episode 378, The Godfather Part 2, back December 9th of last year that we talked. So go back and listen to that episode. What about the storyline? Let's talk about Vincent some more, about Vincent kind of having some feels for his cousin. And I know in some religions and some ethnicities in some cultures, dating or marrying your
it's
first,
it's not
frowned upon. So I get Francis Ford Coppola putting that in there. But at any your point, did you lose any respect towards the film for that? I didn't personally.
No, I think because it's such a taboo topic, it's such a taboo thing to do, and at least in today's world. But like you said, in different cultures and religions, it's not frowned upon like that. I didn't have a problem with it. I just wondered how it was going to play out with Michael, and ultimately, obviously, he gives him the ultimatum saying, "Hey, it's either the business or your relationship with Mary. You have to choose, and there's only, you're not going to be able to pick one. You only can pick one." And ultimately, we can blame all this on Michael, but Vincent, he was with her when she was gunned down at the end of the movie.
Did you almost think that Vincent had anything to do with the death of Mary?
No, I didn't. I didn't think. No. Do you think she? Did you think that was going to happen?
I don't think so, but if I'm just looking fan conspiracy theorist about it, just the way Vincent looked, not the actor, not the way the actor portrayed the character, but just the way the character looked. If you go back and look at his eyes, I'm going to do this again like last week. It's all in the eyes, Chico. If you go back and look in the eyes of Vincent as he's pushing Mary away from him and he's rushing her to go outside with Michael, it almost made me feel like he was maybe two bird, one special kind of shot. Maybe she would get it too. I really do feel like Vincent had the known effect that Michael was supposed to die. I really do believe that Vincent set up Michael to die that night.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even
Because,
though technically he was playing both sides.
yeah, not only is he playing both sides, he's officially the Don, but that's not his brother. That's not his dad. That's not his, that's just an uncle. And let's not forget, Michael called him hot-headed earlier in the film, just like Sonny.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't agree with a lot of stuff that Vincent was wanting to do in the movie. So I just feel like even though Michael was trying to step back and whitewash the money somewhere else, I feel like Vincent was just like, you know what, I got to take him out. He's got to be. I can't have him lurking over any of this business, or I can't have him lurking over any of what I want to do. Since now that I'm the Don. So
Yeah.
looking in the character's eyes of the final opera scene, I really do believe that, Vincent was wanting Michael to be gunned down that night. And if Mary gets it too, Mary gets it too.
Yeah. But I think Michael's also like a symbol of like, the fact that he made that choice all the way back to the first movie. Everything he touches just, has blood on it. Whether his relationship with Kay, ultimately, even going all the way back to before he even joined the business with, which I kind of appreciated his, thinking about his retrospective with his first marriage, that the girl that he married in the first movie that was killed in the bomb crash or the car bombing. Even then he wasn't even part of the family business, and his poisonous talons or poisonous reach still reached that.
Did you like the fact that it did spend some time talking about the first wife? Because, like, even Michael says, whether it's the first movie or this movie, he's like, if nothing happened to her, like, the kids would not exist. At least with
Yeah.
Kate.
Yeah. Well, and there was a part of me just for a brief second to think, was Anthony is he a product of the first marriage? But Kay's the mother, right? Kay's the mother of Anthony and Mary.
Right. I
Yeah.
thought you were almost I thought you were almost wanting to go with the whole, is Vincent the son from the first movie? With the
And I
girl.
think that would have been that would have been a cooler twist. Him find out that he has a illegitimate kid in his 60s that he could have raised and made his own, and maybe got him out of the business as well.
Yeah. You said you couldn't hear it, or maybe you just overlooked it, but I could have sworn it did confirm that that was Sonny's illegitimate son, right? It wasn't just a theory.
No, well, I read it on Wikipedia, but now that I'm thinking about it, there is a scene where they pull Vincent aside and said, "Who are you?" And said, "My father is Sonny. He was in a relationship with a different woman, and X, Y, and Z." So they explain it,
Yeah.
but there was a moment where I was just like, "How is this connected?" or what's the significance of this character? Do you? That's another. I guess that's another interesting question. Do you like the fact that they make an illegitimate child the dom of the family, since everything has always been like the next one down biologically?
See, I didn't know what I wanted to think about that. I'm like, are they going with it because that's the only pool that they have in the movie? And, if we're saying this is real life, like, I didn't know what to think about it. I wanted it to be, but that's the thing. Michael in the first movie didn't want anything to do with the business at first.
Mhm.
So in this movie, you're kind of like, Anthony, he's not going to go to law school. He'll come back around. He'll have to get in the business, but it never teased that. It never even once was like he's getting in the business. Let's talk about the casting of the two kids, though. Mary and Anthony, would you recast them, or were you okay with the actors that were portrayed as the kids? I would have thought 15 years later of a film, they're the son and the daughter of the biggest gangster of all time, film wise. It would have made I feel like it would have made a little sense if you cast Andy Garcia as Anthony. But looking in the movie now, Anthony didn't have that big of a role, and I guess Francis Ford Coppola didn't want Anthony to be in that big of a role.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have preferred, but that's another thing I was going to talk about. I kind of agree with you that Anthony. I think if you had done Anthony as the one that's trying to be the Vincent character, and he wants to be part of the family business, I think that you would have been treading the first two films in somewhat way. And so they had to do something different with that.
So yeah, I wouldn't have recasted the two either. What do you think of finally having Michael and Kay reunite?
I like it. I thought it was a good scene. I thought Pacino and Keaton had good chemistry, and I think you could put it on the performances. I think there's a brief moment while at the train station when Mary's talking to them. Maybe they could rekindle their relationship. Maybe everything could be all right, but obviously, that was doomed to fail when we get the ending with Mary's death.
So that being said, and I loved the final 45 minutes. The entire Act 3 taking place in the opera scene was just like an anticipation, like a build and a build and a build, almost like the end of the first Godfather with the baptism.
Yeah.
So that being said, after Mary dies and Al Pacino lets out that scream, when Michael is in the chair, whether you watch the theatrical version or not, it's still the same area. He's in the chair. Do you think he went back to Sicily and that's where because that kind of looks like he's in Sicily, right? I don't in New York whenever he dies or whenever he's in that final scene.
Yeah, I it's the same scene. They just cut away before he falls out of the chair in the movie that way. That's why I think the ending is kind of like in the Coda edition. It's kind of like, wait, what? While you get like a for sure, yeah, Michael Corleone is dead in the theatrical cut.
It just makes me, I kind of wish the Godfather Part 3 was a little bit longer because there is some tie-ins that I kind of wanted, but I'm kind of ultimately also happy with either ending of the theatrical or the Coda.
I think you could have gone one step further and not show him technically physically die, but show him in an unmarked casket being buried in some cemetery that no one knows in Italy.
See, I mean, that's too. I don't mind seeing him die on screen or a burial. I do think it's poetic justice of him of the movie just ending with him in the chair alive. Especially like if you're out there listening and you're like, but it's called the death of Michael Corleone and you don't see him die. Again, my theory is that you see him die when his daughter dies.
Yeah. And
died.
really, you could make the argument that he died when he killed Frito. Honestly, like that, the Michael that we know from the first movie no longer exists, and we're just left with the shell of the man that ultimately his actions is what leads to all the events in this film.
What do you also think of them playing diabetes in one of the biggest roles of this movie? Like, it goes all the way back to the first few scenes in the third movie, when he's like he's asking Kay if she wants some of the cake, and you're like, oh, dude, you're diabetic, you shouldn't be having the cake. You know, it plays a role, but it doesn't. They don't want you to really think about it. But it's one of
Yeah.
the pieces of the movie that you're just like, man.
They very much hint at the idea that diabetes is what's going to kill him in a weird way. Because I mean, in the theatrical, does he have the diabetic stroke where he's in the hospital? Is that a scene in the theatrical?
I believe so.
Okay. Because part of me thought that was like something that was new for this film, but if it, I mean, like I said, you know, this is essentially the theatrical version, just cut up in different ways. And I think, they moved different scenes to make things flow better, according to what Coppola says.
That being said, we both kind of agree to disagree on the ending, but it's not like one of the biggest debates. We're not like at each other's throats. I can see why you like the ending of the theatrical. You can see why I like the ending of the coda. So I like the two sides of us meshing together for that. I think that makes for a fun ending to an episode and just a fun podcast conversation in general. But like, man, I still don't agree
Mhm.
with the negative hype around this movie. Do you think this is the greatest movie trilogy of all time, or do you think that third movie of what the critics say puts a dark thunderstorm cloud over the trilogy?
Man, I'm kind of torn because I mean that those first two movies are just, like I said, I prefer part one more than part two, but part two is very, very good considering it's 3.5 hours and it zooms by quick. This one is, what it feels like. You know how, you know how the original Toy Story trilogy is perfect, and then we just tacked on four and five later this year. That's what it feels like. I feel like we could have just had one and two and be fine, but Coppola was like, "No, we need to do a third one," and it just tacked on to the end. Like I said, not that being said, I don't think it's a. Is it needed? No, you could really end part two, and Michael lives with the consequences of his actions, but we just never see it. But it is nice to see technically what Coppola had in mind for his consequences to be in this film.
My answer to my own question is I'm glad we got the definitive ending from the director by the director instead of
Mhm.
somebody else picking up a third chapter.
Like, do you think if so if they had never released the third film, like they had shot it but never released it, and like years later after Coppola dies, it's like, oh, we found this in a vault somewhere in Hollywood. Do you think people would be open to the idea, or do you think it would have been like, no, let's just
Oh,
leave it alone?
yeah, for sure. Even if they release the Coda edition, like let's say in 10 years from now, and it didn't get released a few years ago, I think people still would have been open to the idea of wanting to see it.
Like, I remember when you bought that Blu-ray, I think it was during COVID 2020, and like you were so excited to see like what the alternate version of that movie was going to be.
I just wanted to see what I'm a big fan of. Like, there's no way I can direct or I can, do any kind of stuff like that. And I'm not saying the theatrical version is bad. It's not at all to me. It's still a great film. And yes, I'm putting the word great in front of part 3, but I just was glad to see his original thoughts and plans for his movie. You know,
Mhm.
uh, I'm always excited to see the director's cut, the producer's cut, because Zach, studios have way more power than they should.
Yeah.
So, especially if it's over an artist or a director's story, there's way too much power given to the studio. So that being said, even if we never saw the Code Edition, I still say Part 3 is a good film and a good way to end the trilogy of what is The Godfather. So, um, and
Yeah.
you're like, man, can you put that up against Star Wars? I'm like, you used to be able to, but now Star Wars is more of a franchise and it's no longer a trilogy. You being a Lord of the Rings fan, it's almost the same way. You can't put it up against the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings trilogy because there is none. You have 3 more additional films.
Yeah. Well,
You can't.
ironically enough, I'm looking on Roger Ebert's website, and they rank all the Godfather movies are like 4 to 5-star films, but they actually rank Godfather Part 3 a little bit better than Part 2, which is interesting.
So that being said, I'll climb down the rabbit hole one day, probably a lot sooner than later, and I'll go through the bonus discs of what was intended for this recent release. I'll rewatch the theatrical version, but like overall, man, I think this is one of the, and it's not just because of the picture behind me. It's not because this is one of my favorite 2 movies of all time, but like to me, this is one of the perfect trilogies of all time. Even if that means
Mhm.
one day I think we should talk about the Before Sunset trilogy. We still have
Yeah.
over 6 months to talk about those 3 movies. This is the year to do it. This is the year that we're dedicated to talking about classics we've never talked about. So that being said, I really do think that just this set of trilogy movies, these 3 movies, even though number 3 is not on IMDb's top 250, let's talk about that. Do you think this movie should be somewhere in the top 250? Even if it is ranked 250?
I think it deserves I think it deserves to be in the top 250. I mean, I don't know how, you could have this whole entire this trilogy. You have the first 2 films, which obviously they're well deserved to be in there, but, the third, you can't complete the trilogy without the third.
So we started the IMDb top 250 with The Godfather Part 2. I believe that was like 4, right? What I don't have it in front of me, but what is the IMDb ranking top 250 of The Godfather Part 1 and 2? I think they're in the top 5.
I can look it up real quick. You have
But
anything else you wanna say about the movie?
yeah, that being said, while you're looking that up, I do want to go with, the overall ending, finally seeing Michael just whether no matter what edition you see, I think it
They're in
was
the
just
top 5.
both of them.
Godfather's number 2, and then Godfather Part 2 is number 4, behind The Dark Knight, and Godfather's behind Shawshank Redemption, so they're in the top 5.
Yeah. So this is the first time we've ever had that where we're like, oh, this movie should be, and it's completely unranked. I would go that I'm not going to say it needs to be 250. I think it deserves to be in the top 100. That's just my opinion.
I would put it in the 100 to 150 range, somewhere in there.
That being said, man, let's talk favorite scene. Do you have a favorite scene from The Godfather Part 3?
The opera the opera assassination is really good. It's shot really well. The conference room ambush where like all the heads of the families get assassinated or shot down by a machine gun is pretty cool. The confrontation, the dialogue and the confrontation between Michael and Anthony when he says he's going to be an opera singer and not be a lawyer, I thought was a really good character moment. I think in that moment, there's still the viciousness of what Michael was in the second movie. It hasn't really never left him, but he's able to push it down where he doesn't have to use it unless it's truly needed. And we got to see a little bit of that in that scene. And
Uh,
then,
okay.
obviously the ending, obviously. So
I like the entire opera sequences. I like the scene where the assassination is almost tried and laid on Vincent, where he's in there with the girl and the two goons come in and try to assassinate him. I thought that was a very good scene. The scene with the helicopter and the whole trying to get everybody in one shot. That's a very high action scene right there, especially for this a drama based movie. Movie. Yeah, man. I also think it was a good scene where you get some acting chops from Sophia. I know a lot of people again complain about her, but there's the scene where Vincent tells her they can no longer see each other, and she breaks down, and I'm like, man, dude, she got me. I don't see anything bad about it. So, star rating, Godfather Part 3. If you want to go back and listen to them, you can. Episode 1 and 2. Part 1, Part 2, I gave them both a 5. Part 3, I still think this is a very good movie. I think this has decent rewatchability because it is 2 hours and 40 minutes instead of 3:15. Those first two movies I can watch all day long. This one, maybe not. So therefore, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. It's still a very good movie to me. I enjoyed it. I didn't play on my phone. I wasn't twiddling my thumbs. I didn't want this to end. I truly thought this was a good ending to the greatest trilogy of all time. So I'm giving Part 3 a 3 out of 5. 3.5.
Nice. I'm just going to go a little lower. I'm going to give it a 3. I don't think this is as strong as Part 1 and Part 2, obviously. But there are still good things to like about this. I just prefer, in my opinion, the theatrical better than the Coda edition. So,
would you rank both of them a 3, the theatrical and the Coda?
Yeah. Because I mean, it's the same story. It's just cut up into different factions of it, essentially.
Different factions. If you guys wanted to check them out, this episode was brought to you by San Marcos Mexican Restaurants, located at 2301 Southwest 59th Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Give them a call at 405-685-7773 for to-go order, or dine in and experience the best Mexican food in the metro with $5 house margaritas on Wednesday. You also get great food and even better customer service. Let them know that the Cinema Movie Podcast sent you and get 10% off your entire purchase. Zach, that being said, we are done almost with March. The Godfather Part 3 is done and over with. Next week.
So wait. But so we did a Spielberg this month. We did a Coppola. Let's end it with a Scorsese. What do you think about that?
That's the next week. We're gonna knock the month of March out with Raging Bull, Robert De Niro, directed by Martin Scorsese. I think this is gonna be a fun conversation. Again, another episode that we should have talked about a long time ago. What are your thoughts?
Like righting our wrongs.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Are you excited about Raging Bull? Have you seen it before, or are you kind of nervous to watch it? Maybe you think you won't like it again.
I'm nervous about it because it's only just barely 2 hours, but I just remember the first time I watched, it's like I kind of had that really this is what people are making a big deal about, but that's been years ago. So I'm hoping we'll have a new taste and like about it. So we'll see.
And then you know what? Spring showers bring April flowers, right? Is that how it goes, or something like that? April, we're talking about La La Land. The first week of April. April week 2, we're talking all about Forrest Gump. April week 3, American History X, and then we end April with Kill Bill Volume 1. So a fun month of April. I cannot wait to dig into it. But before we get to April, we have to finish out March. Next week, Raging Bull, a brand new episode. I'm going to leave us, if you're watching us on Facebook Live or Emis Wall Productions YouTube channel, I'm going to leave us with this scene. And if you're listening audio version, it is the final scene.
Oh, wait. Before we cut this off, I wanted to ask you, us completing the Godfather part 3, is it kind of like me, how we finished Return of the King? We finished Lord of the Rings. We're done with Godfather. Does that feel good?
No, it doesn't. I was happy to be done with Lord of the Rings because they were 4.5 hours long. And you know me, I like long movies and I like epics, but I'm just not a Lord of the Rings fan. This is almost like a bittersweet thing to me because I love talking about these characters so much. I love talking about this family and just how these movies are to me. Like they really are like just it's a placement of time, and I don't think we'll ever get a set of 3 movies or a story like this ever again in our lifetime. So leaving the episode, if you're listening to this audio version, I'm leaving the scene of the final dinner scene table of part 1 where you have Tom, you have the sister and her husband, you have Fredo, you have Sonny, you have Michael, and it's the scene where Michael's telling them that he's essentially going to be a Marine. And man, looking at it and seeing all those actors that are no longer with us is just kind of crazy.
Kind of crazy, yeah. Sad too.
Yeah. Literally, Michael is the only one left besides the sister, if you want to actually put it that way. But let's leave us, and that is us talking The Godfather Part 3, and that is us finishing up this great trilogy. We'll see you next week for a fun conversation all about Raging Bull on another new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.